Well, so, Taiwan pretty recently had their big presidential election, and we wanted to get you on to get the Indian perspective on why Taiwan is important.
Well, actually, the fact is that Taiwan is important because of IT. And I don't mean information technology, I mean India Taiwan.
Ah,
The fact of the matter is that if you look around your own country, you look around California, for example, look around Texas, any of the locations, New Jersey, any of the locations where you've got software industries, IT, Washington State, etc., you'll find a fair amount of Indians there. I mean, people of Indian origin or actual Indian citizens. You have a large number of Indian citizens working in India for US companies. So tech and India are very closely linked because we have set up a whole chain of technical institutions of various levels of study up to a doctoral level. And so we have a fairly large number of people who are trained in tech, and they do very well across the world. At the same time, we hardware has not been our strong point. In microchips, for example, it's not been a strong point. It's been a very weak point for some time. I mean, but now with the result of the problem of we are facing regarding supply from China, not only because of arbitrary behavior on the part of the Chinese side, government side, not the suppliers so much, but also because of geopolitical reasons. It's becoming more and more difficult because tech is a dual use situation. Tech can be used for war and for peace. It can be used in both ways. And from that point of view, I think less and less of democracies are going to rely on Chinese tech because you're never very sure exactly how much is embedded in that particular tech. Taiwanese tech, the Taiwanese have basically been separating from China for quite some time. Uh, in fact, from the time they became a democracy, if I may say so, and Di Denghui became the president. Now, the KMT elected Di Denghui as president because they wanted to choose what they call a native Taiwanese. What they basically mean by native Taiwanese is an ethnic Chinese who settled in Taiwan for 2, 3, 4 generations. A mainlander is someone who came ashore, whose family came ashore with Chiang Kai shek in 1949. So that's the difference. Ethnically, I would say the mainlanders, of course, are a more diverse group. The Taiwanese came from one or two provinces in China, Fujian, etc. But they're both ethnic Chinese. But since Li Denghui, since democracy, there's been a flowering of the Taiwanese entity, the Taiwanese identity, if I may say so. And from Li Denghui's time, it is very clear that a lot of people in Taiwan did not buy into the argument that we're ethnic Chinese, so we belong to the PRC. I mean, that argument would not work very far in Singapore, for example, where there are a huge amount of ethnic Chinese, the largest single population group in Singapore. And they have basically the say in running of Singapore. They're doing a pretty good job of it from Lee Kuan Yew onwards. But I'd like to say that that identity, that change, that from we are all Chinese, I think the KMT also understood that it's not going to go back and reconquer the mainland unless some catastrophe happens in the mainland and the collapse of the PRC. And then if that happens, I don't think it's going to be the KMT that's going to come back and take over. It'll probably be some new, as yet unknown force. So from that point of view, we have seen this develop. And this is the reason why Taiwanese elections have become important. Because for quite some time, I mean, if you search the internet, you'll find out when I first said it, hopefully. I long back I made the argument, and made the argument on the Chinese side as well, frankly, that Taiwan would be a poison pill if you swallow it. The reasoning I had was the Taiwanese people have become now embedded in democracy. It's got into their cultural DNA. Like in India, for example, the Vedic period, the ancient Indian period, the Mughal period, and the Western period, when we were under British colonization. All three periods have become embedded in our DNA. So the Taiwanese democracy has become embedded in the Taiwanese DNA. Even the so-called, I mean, they're not so-called, they're very pro PRC, and some of them really seem to believe that there is a future in being part of the PRC. I mean, but even they are different in this generation. Now you have, for example, Ma Ying-jeou, the former president. Now he's as deep blue and deep blue as they come. Now this is, blue. So if I was appearing on a Taiwanese channel, they'd probably mistake me for a KMT. I'm neither KMT nor DPP nor anything. I'm an Indian citizen. I don't play politics in Taiwan. All the parties are the same to me. But having said that, I'd like to say that Ma Ying-jeou went to China. And after he landed in China, he prayed at the grave of his ancestors, which is an ancient ethnic Chinese tradition. I wouldn't, frankly, a lot of these Chinese traditions have been destroyed uh, by the CCP. We're talking of Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution, which he said, yes, fight the olds, fight the five olds, fight this, fight culture, destroy, whatever you find. But the fact is that the Communist Party itself is a cultural revolution where Chinese philosophy and Chinese traditions are concerned. It has made a considerable difference in Chinese culture and Chinese traditions. So much so that even 20 years ago, when I attended a tea ceremony, let's say in Shanghai, which is different from Beijing. Beijing is a completely city of rulers, so to speak. And whether it's Delhi or whether it's Taipei or whether it's Beijing, the capital is always a little bit different from the rest of the country. And you go and do the same thing in Kaohsiung or in Taipei. The authentic Chinese tea ceremony is in Taipei. It's not in Shanghai. So Chinese culture has been heavily infiltrated by the CCP, with the result that even among the very green people, the DPP people who say, no, never, never unification. Whatever happens to China, we are not going to unify. They have those ethnic Chinese traditions. They have the tea ceremony. They love that, and frankly, so do I, that beautiful music that comes from China and so many other ancient Chinese traditions. At the same time, democracy is embedded in them. So I said, look, you use these guys with yourself, and you're going to get, into your bloodstream, political bloodstream, a whole wave of people who completely and fanatically believe in democracy. And you wait and watch what they're going to do to your system, which is a negation of democracy. It's going to be a poison pill.